some parts of the program, and you can stop me at any time and ask questions or comments. And then when we finish with that piece, I would like to go live to our digital website and show you a few things that we have in terms of electronic resources. And then again, you can ask any questions or stop me at any time. Have you all received samples yet of the program?
Yes, we've seen samples, and we've got it narrowed down to your company and Engage New York, just so
Right.
as you know. So that's where we're
Okay, so you've already had to see some of the print materials. Have you all had a chance to go online to our digital resources yet?
No.
Okay. So at the end of our presentation, I will share with you the sample code that you all can use when you have a chance to look at the resources online. And I'll also go to that website and show you a couple of pages.
Okay.
Okay. All right, great. Well, we'll get started. Make sure we're all set here. My name is Kiki Hammond, and I'm a curriculum specialist with McGraw-Hill Education. But I'm also a former everyday math teacher, and it's a pleasure to speak with you all today about this program, the newest everyday math edition, which is called EM4. And Everyday Math 4 is a comprehensive kindergarten through 6th grade mathematics program engineered for the Common Core State Standard and for the National Standard. We have everything you need to plan, teach, and assess in both print as well as digital. So everything that I'll show you today that is part of a print material, whether it be a book or some sort of worksheet or documents, number stories, everything that you see in print, you also have the ability to look at digitally, which means you can look at it at home, you can pull it up on a smart board. Students also have access to materials through a login. So each student will receive a login, and families will have access to that at home as well. So on the screen, I'm sorry, I love technology, I hate technology, there we go. So do you see my screen? Everything you need to plan, teach, and assess, is that what you're seeing now?
Yes.
Great. You see on the screen on the left, this is actually the teacher's dashboard. And when we go online live to the Connective site, you'll see this is actually how the teachers navigate through a lesson. So the lesson is there, and all the resources have been linked digitally to the lesson to make it really simple for teachers to find the resources they need. Oh gosh, my screens are not advancing. There we go. Okay. So the students are going to have 2 student volumes, and you see on the left, you can have volume 1 and volume 2 of the student journal, and this begins at grades 1 through 6. The students will also have a reference book, and the one on the screen here is the grades 1 and 2 reference book, and then grades 3, 4, 5, and 6 will have a book called Student Reference Book. Kindergarten has a little bit of different materials, and I'll show you a few of those as well as we go through. This is the student digital screen. On the left, you see what we call the student dashboard, the Student Learning Center. I'll be demonstrating some of these digital resources for you during the presentation at the end, and I'm going to leave you with the demo login. As you see on the screen, you have the games at the top, online games for the students to play in class as well as at home. And these materials are device neutral, which means that you can pull them up on any device, laptop, tablet, even on your phone. The teachers and the students have access to these using any device. This is a picture of the University of Chicago, which is where the program was written. I always like to share this picture just to let you know where we come from. Andy Isaac is one of our authors. And Everyday Math 4 was written by an educational team of mathematicians at the University of Chicago. And these teachers have dedicated their career to improving math education. And unlike other programs that commission a variety of authors, under the direction of Dr. Andy Isaac, this team of authors works together year-round, researching best practice in math, creating innovative print and digital tools, and supporting teachers. They pilot, field test, try again, come back to the drawing board, start all over again, and create this edition of EM4. So first, we're going to look at how students learn and what actually will engage our students. We're going to look at the effective instruction, meaningful engagement, and purposeful technology of this program. Now, the first thing I want to share with you is the effective instruction found in Everyday Math 4. It has everything teachers need to plan, teach, and assess, and it starts with a comprehensive 2-volume teacher guide, which I believe you all would have received in your sample kit. And you also have assessment handbook, Math Masters, activity cards. And I want to show you the organization of the unit. If you look at the screen, every unit is going to begin with an organizer, and as you can see on the screen, it includes all the background and details the teacher would need for the next 3 to 4 weeks of lessons. You have 8 units in Everyday Math, and the authors are hoping that 1 unit per month is about the pacing that you would hope for. And we have a pacing guide that is very well lined up for each grade level, and I can show you where to find that as well. This screen shows something we're calling the spiral trace. And this helps to highlight the focus standards of this unit. The spiraling approach to mathematics is something Everyday Math has always had, but this spiral trace actually helps make that more transparent. Each standard from the unit is going to be highlighted, and the authors have also defined the proficiency standard for that point of view. So for example, on the screen, by the end of this unit, expect that children will be able to, and then it tells us along the trajectory of this content area, what we should expect in that unit. And that's been very powerful for teachers in terms of grading, in terms of expectations, their grouping of different level learners. So this is describing basically the degree of mastery as measured against the entire standard that is expected at this point of the year. And this supports teachers with clear guidance on teaching targeted standards. Everyday Math uses a distributed instruction and practice model so that children progress along the learning trajectory of a concept or standard when they are exposed to these concepts in multiple ways, in different contexts over time. The spiral trace pinpoints each exposure during a particular unit. So for example, on the screen, you'll see that lesson 1 might demonstrate during instruction, lesson 2 problem solving, and so on. We also have another unique resource called the Spiral Tracker, and this is found online. While the Spiral Trace allowed us to see each place within the unit where the standard was addressed, this digital Spiral Tracker allows you to see each opportunity across the entire school year. If you take a look at the screen, it shows that there are 123 exposures to this concept. And we would actually use this line here, the Spiral Tracker, to see how many opportunities we have throughout the year. It shows me that this standard is addressed 123 times during the school year. 123 times, which is huge. And it also shows on each of those blue boxes the exact date and the exact opportunity that you'll have for that particular content area. The clear mastery expectations of the Spiral Trace, combined with the assurance of repeated exposure from the Spiral Tracker, helps teachers to support students more completely. Everyday Math 4 develops true, enduring mastery for all levels of students. Strong conceptual development is a focus of good instruction. What does conceptual development look like in an Everyday Math classroom? Everyday Math has 3 types of lessons in which students develop their understanding through conceptual problems and questions, multiple representations, and opportunities for your students to actually write about math. These lessons are designed to help you feel confident as you help your students master their standards. Let's first look at a regular lesson. These are the most common occurring lessons in the program and the primary mode for developing concepts. Throughout the next several slides, we'll see how lessons are organized and easy to use, as well as support the varied needs of teachers and students. So you see that the lesson begins with a 3-part model: warm-up, focus, and practice. It begins with 2 planning pages. First, the lesson opener highlights Everyday Math 4's efficient 3-part lesson. with suggested lesson pacing to help you plan and manage your time in each lesson. We clearly show you the specific standards that are addressed in each part of the lesson, and we help you keep an eye on the big picture with the focus cluster. The spiral snapshot will help you see the connections between lessons you've already taught and lessons that are to come soon. The second planning page is entitled Differentiation Options. This is right up front in the lesson where you need it when you're planning. You will always have these three options: readiness, enrichment, and extra practice, with clearly labeled standards to target mastery. You see built-in practice for every lesson. They use strong tools such as activity cards, manipulatives, and a variety of applications. You'll see whole class opportunities, small group, independent, partner, and these will help ensure you are truly meeting every child's needs. In kindergarten, the differentiation options are going to be found at the end of the lesson. In grades 1 through 6, they'll be found at the beginning of the lesson. Continuing down the page, you're going to see activities also to support English language learners as they acquire or practice vocabulary. The language in which problems are posed is carefully considered in this section. Sometimes this has to do with academic vocabulary or math language. Supporting students who need English language support will also find extensive resources digitally. You also have examples of online differentiation support tucked into your teacher's lesson guide, and these will provide expanded lesson-specific suggestions when you're working with diverse learners. During the warm-up, focus, and practice. After the planning pages, we move into the regular lesson, and you'll find the mathematical practices are highlighted, mental math and fluency, and daily routines in your warm-up. You'll also find an assessment check-in. The authors have included an assessment opportunity in every single lesson. These are called assessment check-ins, or ACIs. An assessment check-in highlights specific tasks that can be used to monitor student progress. Check-ins include proficiency criteria for students who are making adequate progress, and outcomes can be tracked on checklists or digitally recorded. Most assessment check-ins include information on how to address the needs of students who struggle to meet expectations at this given point of the year as well. The primary resource used by your students in Everyday Math will be the student journal at grades 1 through 6. This is an example of a page from a regular lesson. Throughout the lesson, students will interact with a variety of manipulatives as well as document their thinking in the student journal. This can be done in our print journal or in a digital journal. In grades 1 through 6, one or more of your pages is connected to the focus part of your lesson. And the last student page is called a math box. This is designed for spiral review. Kindergarten, your journal is a little bit different. One side of your journal contains open-ended journal pages that will be used at the beginning of the year. And these are great for documenting teacher-led, partner, or independent work. And when you flip your book over to the other side, you'll find lesson-specific pages for supporting Units 5 and beyond. Everyday Math uses program routines in each grade level to develop students' procedural skills and fluency, as well as to develop problem-solving skills. When these appear as part of the instructional focus of a lesson or in math boxes, students have to think, what is this routine asking of me? What do I know? What information is unnecessary? What mathematics will help me complete this routine? And once completed, how am I going to check my work? These are very powerful for students because they engage them in discussion as well as respond to repeated reasoning. The second type of lesson offered is called our open response and re-engagement lesson. Everyday Math 4 provides students the opportunity to engage in non-traditional, challenging problems within these lessons. These are special two-day lessons, included one per unit, designed to target mathematical practices and to teach problem-solving strategies. The open response and re-engagement we see on the screen is called Walking Away with $1 Million. In the focus of this lesson, students are going to begin by applying Math Practice 1, which is to make sense of the problem. They're going to work in pairs to solve this problem. How many dollar bills can fit on this page of the student journal? Then they'll pretend to cover the page with $5 bills. How much money would they have? They can talk to each other about this, show or tell how they knew the answer. Then the students break into small groups to engage in productive struggle as they apply the strategies they gained to determine if they could carry $1 million in a copy paper box that holds 10 reams of paper. The teachers can then bring the class back together to share ideas, justify their solutions, and share strategies. These lessons also offer rubrics to help teachers with checking for progress. The third and final lesson type is called a progress check. These are our two-day lessons at the end of every unit in grades 1 through 6. Our progress check is our unit assessment. Progress checks include opportunities for assessment, open response assessment, and cumulative assessment. All items on the progress check match expectations for progress at that point in the grade level. There is a challenge assessment as well, and the ability to adjust the assessment if needed. These lessons are noted with a red tab. The progress check lesson offers a variety of summative assessments to be administered over 2 days. The Day 1 unit assessment provides opportunities to assess and track students' performance on the content that was the focus of the unit and indicate a student's level of mastery at this time of the year. In even units, Day 2 provides an opportunity for cumulative assessment. Items on this assessment address standards from prior units so that you can gauge student retention over time and adjust if necessary. In the odd-numbered units, Day 2 provides the opportunity for open response or a performance task style assessment. These tasks challenge students to think creatively about a problem and emphasize application, and they use the strategies and skills taught during the open response and re-engagement lessons. As I mentioned, there's also a challenge assessment, which is an option for every unit. This is intended for students who have been doing enrichment activities throughout the unit and to extend their student learning. And then finally, all assessments can be taken in print or digitally. And if your assessments are taken digitally, they will be scored and the data will then be dumped back into your data dashboard. Everyday Math 4 is paced for differentiation and diving deep into conceptual development. Pacing guides for each grade level can be found online. So let's take a look at the meaningful engagement in Everyday Math 4. Everyday Math uses quick looks to develop the concept of subitizing. You're probably familiar with the importance of that word, subitizing, which means the ability to instantly see a number decompose and recompose in various ways. So this is the way that the quick look cards look. You allow the students to have a quick look, then you cover it up, and you ask the students to name the total that they've seen, or maybe create a number sentence, add and subtract. So in this case, they're learning that a 10 frame, if it's filled on one side, is automatically 5, and then add one more could be 6. This could be seen as 2 groups of 6. This could be seen as 2 groups of 5 and 2 groups of 1. And finally, these are the other options for quick looks. A side frame, and then also we have some simple dot patterns in kindergarten as well. In third grade, you'll see equal groups and fractions in the quick look cards. The activity cards are another new resource. These appear in grades K through 6. They are written to be completed independently with a partner or in small groups. These cards can be used for early finishers or integrated into your center, stations, or workshop model. Students will be engaged throughout readiness, enrichment, extra practice, and exploration using these activity cards. There's roughly one card per lesson. These are designed to be done independently, with partners, or in small groups. These are available in cards, but also they're seen online digitally. Your students have access to these through their student center, and the teacher has access as well to pull these up in the classroom to be seen on a smart board or through a projector. So activity cards and quick looks are wonderful, but what could be more engaging than games? Games are an integral part of developing skills in everyday math 4. Let's look at the screen for a moment to learn about this game, Name That Number. In this game, 5 cards are dealt, numbers side up, using 2 or more of the dealt cards, then we have a 6th number as the target number. Using 2 or more of the cards that were dealt, the students are to come up with a combination of operations to reach the target number. Here are some possible responses. Games are a favorite with everyday math teachers because they give students the opportunity to apply skills, think strategically, and build fluency. And they're also really easy to differentiate on the fly. You have differentiation options for your games, as well as directions for games throughout the teacher's edition. One place an opportunity is found for rigor is also going to be in creating number sprees. We also have the option for online projects. Projects are another effective way to reinforce and extend skills and concepts by challenging children to apply understanding in a new way. In third grade, one of your projects is called the Watermelon Seed Spitting Contest. And this is one of our favorites for third grade. Students collect data on how far they can spit or throw watermelon seeds. And cross-curricular extensions are a strength of these captivating projects. They're collecting data, they're measuring, discussing the data, and then finally graphing the data. You can find these projects online in our grade level resources, and I'll show you where that is when we log in just a second. It also includes extensions after the project is over. So when we move into looking at the technology, each student, as I mentioned, is going to have a login. So again, on the screen, on the left is the Teacher Center, and on the right is the Student Center. Let's take a look at all the things that we can see in our ConnectEd Teacher Center. When we first log in, you're going to have a choice of choosing the Teacher Edition or the Student Edition. And you'll be taken to the lesson of the day. Based on the calendar that you're going to set up at the beginning of the year, your calendar will hold the lessons for you based on the day of the year. So in this case, this is the lesson. You don't have to search around every time you log in. Your planner is built and adaptable so that it will be prepared for you to find the lesson of that day. You can see the materials that you would need for the lesson. Gives you information about what you might want to do beforehand. You can even add notes. You also have a menu that includes some other options. You can look at the lessons through a unit organizer. The the calendar planner that I mentioned a minute ago. And you can see here that each day of the month actually has a lesson assigned to it. And if we needed to, we could move this lesson to the next day, and then the calendar would populate itself beyond. So you do have some flexibility here in moving your lessons around within the month. You have the ability to pull up ebooks, which means all the books you have in print, you also have an electronic version. This is the online version of the teacher lesson guide, table of contents. And then finally, the spiral tracker that we had seen before. When the student logs in, this is the dashboard that they will see. The students can access all of the digital tools that you've used and more. Notice that your exact lesson is going to be the emphasis of their student screen per day. They have access to an online virtual toolkit, online games. They can get to their homework from the screen, as well as the reference book. If you choose to use a digital device in class, this is an example of what the landing page would look like for a second grade lesson. With teacher direction, students can access and complete digitally some of the resources in the lesson. They can pull up Mapbox pages, journal pages, and complete some of the lesson pieces through a digital device. The students also have access to the games in the Student Center as well. This is an example of the online virtual manipulative kit. You see on the left side, you have base 10 blocks, attribute blocks, and we'll look at those live as well. Everyday Math also provides further support for teachers. The University of Chicago maintains a virtual learning community. When you access this through your ConnectEd, this provides a space for educators to view and share resources that will help support math teaching. You can find videos of teachers teaching the program, webinars, planning webinars, and you can even watch Everyday Math lessons in actual classrooms. Take a look at the screen, and this is the website at the top of the page, usernames and passwords for you to access the Everyday Math digital resources. If you want to jot that down, and I can send this to you again if you'd like as well. This is going to be where we go to see the digital resources. So I'm going to freeze this screen for 1 second and just go to this live. So I'm going to show you how this works. Hang on 1 second. Are there any questions so far? I know it's a lot of information. Anything specific that you were hoping to discuss?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
okay,
we have a question.
I have one question. On your digital online activities for students, are they allowed, is it possible for them to go on into lessons that you have not covered yet, or is that simply, how do you control what lesson the students log into?
The student's lesson is going to be tied to your calendar. That's a great question. When you set up your calendar, for example, during training, you would be instructed to plug in dates. For example, if you have holidays or field trips, things like that. So you're going to plug in the days of the year that you're going to be teaching math. So whatever lesson your calendar says that you're teaching that day, that will be the resources the student can access for that day. Now, he or she can get to some other practice pieces, but in terms of moving forward into another lesson, they can only see and look at the lesson pieces for the lesson that is tied to your calendar.
And you can change that
daily. I'm sorry.
Like if you happen to, like a snow day and you're off a lesson day, then you just change that?
Yep, you can. It's very simple to do that, and I'll show you. Can you see the screen here? We're logged in to the resources. I logged in live to the student dashboard, the teacher dashboard. So when you log in using the sample demo code that I just gave you, the first thing that's going to pop pop up is the lesson that the program assumes you're on based on your calendar. Let me show you what the calendar looks like. So for example, this would be the calendar, and it says that on this particular day, these are the lessons I'm going to be on. Well, let's pretend like on Wednesday, September 7th, we had a fire drill, and we just didn't get finished with our lesson. Easy enough just to drop this open, and you can change this to a non-teaching day. And so what happened then is it pushed the lesson forward. If I wanted to bring it back and change it back to a teaching day, and it would bring the lesson back. And if you needed 2 days for a lesson, you could extend that. So, for example, this lesson needed to be extended 2 days. I might say extend the lesson, and then what happens you see here is lesson 1.2 becomes a 2-day lesson. So it's easy enough to move the calendar, and with every move that you make on your calendar, it also affects your student center so they see what you see. Does that answer that question a little bit?
Yes, thank you.
You mentioned training.
Good, great.
You mentioned training. How many days of training or hours of training do you provide?
Well, you know, Amanda will have to answer that question for you because generally the training is tied to your purchase. So she would talk with you about how that's done. We have on-site training depending on, you know, the products that were purchased. We have webinar training. And we also have lots of opportunities that are tutorial-based through the website, and I can show you where those are. We have, again, live webinars with some of the authors through our Professional Learning Center. So there are several options, but again, in terms of on-site training, Amanda would have to answer the question for you about that. She has all the information about pricing and sales, and then I actually get to show you how to use what you buy from Amanda. So I have the information about the product, but she would be the one to talk to you about training days and pricing.
What's the
I want
sustainability?
to show you a couple things. I'm sorry.
What's the sustainability if we would purchase? Do we have to purchase anything each year, like workbooks or anything?
The only thing that is reusable, the only thing that is consumable is the student journal. So generally it's priced, and I believe they do a bundle of certain numbers of years. And again, that's something Amanda would have to answer. Depending on your state, I believe there's different price points. But the only piece that is actually consumable is going to be the student journal. And so each year you would repurchase, or depending on how, if you buy, say you buy a 5-year bundle, that would be a different price. And Amanda can share that with you. But the only piece you would have to replace each year would be the student workbooks. And they would have a volume 1 and a volume 2 for each student per year.
You mentioned that the student journal wasn't also available digitally, right?
Yes, it is.
Is there a charge for that?
No, there's no charge for the digital resource if you buy the print material. So what happens is you would buy, for example, if you have 10 third graders, you would buy 10 third grade student sets of materials, and then with that would come their digital resources as well. If you just wanted to purchase digital, then that would be a different price point, and again, Amanda could help you with that. But if you buy the print materials or the student sets, as we call them, the digital resources is part of that purchase.
How does this align with like fast math testing? Do you have any districts that use EM4 with fast math testing for screening and progress monitoring?
I'm not familiar with that. Is that a state-specific thing?
No, it's not state specific, but
you know, let me make a note of that, and I'll ask Amanda to get back with you because that's not something I'm familiar with. So your question is fast math?
yeah, it's through the FastBridge company.
Okay, I'll ask her to check on that, but she would have information about who else in the area uses the program or is considering the program, and maybe she could answer that much better than I could. I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. We only have
Let
about.
me show you on the screen.
I was going to
when
just
you
say
first
we only
log
have.
in,
I'm
you
sorry,
go
Kiki.
ahead.
Sorry. We only have about 10 more minutes, so.
Okay, great. When you have a chance to look, let me just show you a couple things I'd love for you to see. The first thing that you'll see is the lesson that you're going to teach for that day. And notice at the bottom of the screen, you can print the sheets that you would need. And along the side, you actually have access to parts of the lesson. So if you wanted to use, for example, a presentation. This is what we call the presentation. These are going to be interactive whiteboard or projector used slides. And with each part of the lesson, you actually have parts that have already been created for you per slide. So for example, you would pull this up on the screen, or you could pull up other slides to look at. Maybe you wanted to share a particular piece of material with the students digitally. So it's already been linked together for you depending on the lesson that you're on, and all that is available to see for each lesson. And when you go into the menu, one thing that you might consider looking at, when you drop the menu open, if you scroll all the way almost to the bottom, you're going to see something called eBooks. And this is where all your electronic versions are going to be for all the books that you own. And you can actually go in and see each of these resources digitally and pull those up on the screen. You also have access to the games we mentioned, the online games. Each grade level would have that, as well as that virtual toolkit. This is where you can pull out the resources. And these may be resources you're using in the classroom, but you can also have them available to be seen up on the screen. So if I was working with Based in Blocks, I could pull those out this way. Is there anything specific that I can show you on the digital resources that you're interested in seeing?
One thing that I'd like to mention is that we have waited to purchase a curriculum that was aligned to the Common Core. So
okay.
We want to make sure that that alignment is complete and that, you know, that our wait has been worth it. So any concerns that we should have about this being aligned to the Common Core?
No, in fact, this program is our 4th edition of Everyday Math, and the author's directive on this edition was actually to write this program 100% aligned to the Common Core. And so what you'll be able to see in every single lesson in the organizer is that it demonstrates, let me go into a page for you, it demonstrates the standards that the students are going to see in that lesson. It demonstrates the practice standards as well as the content standards. And so when you look in the Teacher's Edition, you should be able to see in the front there are going to be some pages at every grade level that actually list for you the standards in every single place where those standards are going to be seen. But when you go into an actual lesson, so for this lesson, notice that along the right column it lists the standards in the lesson and each part of the lesson and where it's aligned to one of the Common Core standards. So every single thing that you do in the program actually is aligned to and tied to a standard. And all the standards for each grade level is actually available for you here. So they've written the lessons based on the standards, so it's 100% alignment.
Okay. And what's the copyright on this program again?
2016, 2014 is when we began in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade had their edition, and then last year they published 3, 4, 5, and 6, and so the edition would either say 2014, 15, and then the final copyright is 2016, but that's just depending on the different grade levels. They kind of broke apart the grade levels in terms of when they were published.
Okay.
So 2014 is generally the copyright.
And how much time will need to be spent on creating manipulatives? I know you have the digital, but
yes, with each grade level, you actually have a list of suggested manipulatives. We could send you a list to see, and it may be that you already have the majority of these things available. Kindergarten has probably the most preparation time because most of their lessons are going to be hands-on and group work, so they do have a little bit more preparation, which is generally, from what I hear from kindergarten teachers, they're used to that. But the other grade levels, your resources are going to be listed. Let me show you, for example, on today's lesson. Sorry, it keeps taking me back to that lesson. When you go in to see the lesson, it's actually going to list for you the materials that you would need. So you see here on the screen, It's suggesting a demonstration clock, some brads, optional, scissors optional, and so on. So it will tell you exactly what is needed. But generally, it's going to be materials that are included, whether it be a toolkit clock, as this says, or some counters. So the lessons are roughly 60 minutes in length, and then each lesson is very clearly laid out in terms of the materials needed.
So we don't, so it's already included things like what we might call daily review, mental math. All those things are already in your 60-minute lesson.
Right, yes. The 3-part lesson that we looked at a few minutes ago actually lays out the 3 parts, meaning your warm-up, your focus, and your practice. And inside all of that 60 minutes are those pieces, yes.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
How easy are you hearing from your teachers and their students? How easy is the digital part to get to and use?
How easy is what to get to?
The digital part of your things, like the digital things that the kids would use.
Well, the login is very simple, and it opens up to the lesson of that day. As far as the students' resources, once they log in again, it shows them exactly what they need to see. So the ease of that is that it's already sitting here for you. The only thing that I've ever heard teachers say in regards to that is that there's so much available that sometimes, and you see here on my screen, so many things available that they're often not sure, where to begin. So we do talk about that in training, that there's so many great options, but for teachers, generally, you choose the things that you would use in your classroom. And while there are lots and lots of options, teachers are generally choosing the ones that they feel comfortable using. Mm-hmm. So it's more about deciding from the plethora of stuff you have, which piece you actually want to use.
And how about the ease of teachers who may be more algorithm based to teach conceptually based? Is it intimidating for them and hard?
I taught the program for years, and I remember feeling at first that it looked so very different than what I felt like I had been taught to do. But generally, if you look at the content is the same. The approach or the way that you're going to present some of the materials may be different, but third grade content looks like third grade content, depending, no matter which program you're looking at. But it is a shift in thinking in terms of teaching more conceptually. You have everything you need within the program to do that, but it can be a shift for teachers who have been very used to a much more traditionally laid out program, because there are several different options and several different strategies that students can use. Lots of discussion, lots of partner work, justifying and reasoning of your answers, and maybe more writing than teachers have seen in mathematics. So there is a shift in that thinking to teach conceptually. But no, it's not something that is terribly difficult or impossible to do, but it is a shift for those of us that have been teaching traditionally before.
I have a question about, let's say a kid is on the digital part and he's not done with an assignment, he or she is not done with an assignment, and you've moved on to the next day. How do you get them to go back to finish an assignment, or how does that work?
Well, there's several options, and we would talk about this when we looked at your pacing for the year. Can I hold your question for 1 second? I want to show you something, and I'll come right back around to it. When you go into this news and let me back up for a second. When you go into the Help Center, you're going to see that you have a pacing guide, and I'm just going to pull this up briefly to show you. All the grade levels are here. And so, for example, you're going to have roughly 110 lessons for the whole year. So that means you're not going to have one lesson a day for 180 days. You're going to actually have some flexibility there. So to your question, let's say that we were teaching this unit 2 and lesson 2-1 was something that a student didn't finish. The authors had suggested 18 days for this unit. Well, I may have more like 6 weeks for that. So it's just depending on your calendar. Either you would have small groups the next day that students could complete their work. Sometimes students take that home. But it also depends on your schedule. And so when you are having your training, depending on, how if you decide to do that, there will be a lot of discussion about that, about pacing, about planning, suggestions for how to make sure the students complete their assignments.
Okay.
So basically, the bottom line is that you're going to have, let me pull this up here. You see you have 109 lessons in first grade, but we've added in some differentiation days, practice days, assessment days. So there's a total of roughly 170 days of instruction, which means there is some flexibility there. So if you need to take an extra day for a particular lesson, or if you've got a group of students for whom you need to slow down a bit, there is some flexibility there.
Do schools find any gaps after starting your program from what they taught before, if that makes any sense? Is there a transition year that's difficult?
There's a transition in the way that some of these things are taught, but as I said, the content piece is the same. So if you're teaching a program that is solid in content for third grade, then the same content is going to be seen. One place where we do see at the beginning, when you first adopt the program is going to almost assume that the students have had everyday math all along. So for example, in third grade, a lesson might say, for practice, play a game called Top It. And it will assume that the students have played that before. Well, of course, if you haven't had this program before, then there will be some things that will be new to the students. So what we also do in training is talk about the things that are everyday math related and things that are just math related.
Okay.
So there will be some things that are new to third graders because they are in third grade. And there'll be some things new that are everyday math related that we want to be sure that we let them know about. But for the most part, that first year, those things are going to be clear because if they're new to you, they're probably most likely new to the students. And then usually after that first year, those pieces take care of themselves. But as far as gaps in content, the content should follow transitions pretty easily from any program because it's going to be based on the standards. But we could do a comparison. You know, we could look at the program that you're currently using and, you know, match it up to the grade level, and you could see it that way. But it is 100% covering of those standards. So everything you need is going to be included.
Okay. Anybody have any last questions?
So if I'm understanding it correctly, if you want to use manipulatives, you provide a list, but there's no hands-on manipulatives that come with the program. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I'm not able to hear you very well.
Are there, so if a lesson calls for counters, we provide the counters.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, we do have a manipulative kit, and Amanda could share the pricing with you for that. But generally, if you look at the manipulative suggested, it may be that you already own some of these, or if you all decided that you wanted to purchase the manipulative kit, that would be an additional purchase. But if they're recommending a particular manipulative, yes, it would. If you bought the kit, it would be included. But otherwise, yes, it would be something that they're expecting you to have.
Okay. So you have a wrap up for us then, Kiki? You have about 1 more minute.
Okay, great. The last thing I'm hoping that you'll look at when you have a chance to log on, when you drop down the menu again, you're going to have something called resources, a tab that says resources. And this is just really powerful for teachers to see that in a unit, in a lesson, all of these resources have been linked to this lesson, which means the authors are giving you, at point of use, every single thing they think you might want to see in this lesson. And of course, you're not going to use all these resources every single time, but everything is going to be linked so that you don't have to go locate these things. So for example, if you're looking for a game for a particular lesson, it's already going to be linked there. Or if you're looking for a home link, which is the name of our homework, it's already going to be linked here. So the ease of use for the digital piece is really found in these resources and the way that they're linked to each lesson. And that's just been really great for teachers to not have to spend extra time on that. So that's been something that they've been happy to see. The last thing that I want to share that I hope you'll look at is going to be under the Help Center. And this is where you're going to find user guides. And these are going to be guides of how to do particular things in the program. It may be a video that you want to see. We have a getting started video here, and one of the authors is talking through the program. We have implementation videos. So if you're interested in seeing that, again, that was at the menu and at the Help Center. This really lets you know from the author's point of view how the program is laid out. So hopefully that can be helpful as well.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time today, and we'll be in contact with Amanda then. And
Great.
Okay,
And I'll let Amanda know.
And how long will this digital resource password and stuff? Can we get into it and look at it? Is that time sensitive in any way?
You know, it's never expired. I don't think it expired at all. It hasn't
Okay.
expired yet. So
All right.
go ahead and get in there, play with it, and print some things, and try some things off. We'd love for you to try a piece of a lesson with your students and just kind of get to know what's there. If it does expire, we'll just give you another one.
Okay.
So if you ever try to log in and you can't get in, just let us know. We'll get you another code.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Great. All right. Thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
bye.